And we are live. Welcome to another edition of DT Live. Today is another free and open chat. We're calling this Free and Open Chat Tuesday. Anybody that wants to join me in a live video conference call here, just join via Zoom, the Zoom client. It's free software. You can install it on Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and of course Linux. Alright, so yes, let's get to some of the chat here before folks start joining in on the conference call. There were several of you here early. Mr. Alan Pope, how are you doing, sir? First in the chat here. Ryan was also here. Yeah, Mr. GFY, yo, yo, yo. Tears falling. Tears falling. You're usually not here this early. You were here early today. Yeah. Alright, well. Several of you were here. Red Robbo's Workshop. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Very nice of Red Robbo to do the super chat. He says he's watching from his phone on the train. So, very cool. I don't know if he... Hey, Yu-Gi-Oh! How's it going? Pretty good. You're not driving, I hope. I hope you're the passenger in that vehicle. All right. I was reading a little bit of some of the chat here for a second. Yeah, Alan Pope's asking about new camera. Yes, this is a new camera. This is a Panasonic Lumix G7, and I love it. Yes, I'm really happy with it. The picture may be a little strange here because I'm trying something new in OBS here. I used one of the color keys. I actually set it to black, so the black borders around Zoom are transparent, which looks really nice other than my black laptop and desktop behind me. You can see there's some transparency there. The background image is bleeding through, but actually it's not that bad, so I may just leave it. Alright. Yeah. Hold on just a second, Yu-Gi-Oh! There's a problem with the sound. Okay, so Yu-Gi-Oh! They're not hearing you. Let me see if I can fix the sound settings here in Pulse Audio. Let's see. Hey, Yu-Gi-Oh! Speak a little bit. Okay, yeah, for some reason OBS is not picking up the desktop audio. Ah, I see. I hate Pulse Audio. Try it now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Chat, can you guys hear Yu-Gi-Oh? I bet you can now.
Can you hear me now, everybody?
Yeah. Okay. I think we're good. Give it a few seconds and the chat will let us know.
Okay. As I was saying, what new distros are you trying out?
Yes. My new distros that I'm trying out this week, I am trying PC Linux, Present Arms PC Linux OS Trinity, because everybody on Big Daddy Linux will be taking a look at that distro. That was the weekly distro challenge, so I'm going to for sure take a look at that. He also created a version of PC Linux OS just for me with my OpenBox configs. I actually got that ISO from him last night. I haven't installed it yet. I'm actually going to install it on one of my extra drives this evening and play around with it probably tomorrow. So I'm taking a look at both of those distros from Present Arms. Other than that, don't really have anything else planned right away.
My desktop is still running Linux Mint Mate, but my laptop's operating system has changed a little bit. I am now using on my laptop Voyager.
Voyager, yeah, very very cool. That's that's Debian based, isn't it?
It's Ubuntu.
Yeah. Okay.
XFCE, it just recently got updated to 1804.1.
Okay. How's that working out for you?
It's working good. It's actually better than 16.04 because there were some issues. There were some bugs here and there in 16.04, but it seems that most of those bugs have been fixed.
Okay, cool. And we got Present Arms himself in the chat now. So we were just talking about him. Looks like he's trying to get connected. Also in the chat, we've got John Kennedy, Tom, Heather's here. How you doing, Heather? E4R, Punchbag Bob. How you doing, PB? Oh, we're gonna have to get a Punchbag on the chat. Yeah. I don't know if he has the time to join us this evening, but still confused about the name. Why he changed his name?
One of these days, we need to get Toss into one of these.
Yeah. Yeah, Toss is he's always doing these kind of chats, so it wouldn't be that hard to get him in on something like this.
He usually does his chats usually Fridays and Saturdays. Yeah. Maybe a 30-minute one on Sunday.
Yeah. Of course, Toss also does his Microsoft Mondays and his Windows Wednesdays. And
just recently, he did a review on Manjaro, and he gave his inside points on it.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of his Manjaro video. I know he's never been a fan of Manjaro, but it seems like he was pretty fair to it. And he tried the XFCE edition, which is definitely their most polished version of Manjaro. So
I think out of all of them, it's pretty much the easiest one for new users to actually get used to.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely easier to get into XFCE, that is, than Plasma.
Yeah, it is.
Just because of how complicated Plasma can be with all the settings and everything.
Yeah.
So.
The thing about KDE in general, it has a huge track record for people getting lost in its settings because there's so many settings that KDE has.
Yeah. Yeah, Zebedee Boss in the chat. How you doing, Zeb? He says, I guess Punchbag Bob, he chose the nickname because we kept beating him up on his streams. You don't have to take that, though. Yeah, Punchbag says, yeah, it depends if Toss is washing his caddy trunk out or not, yeah? Toss and the caddy. Present Arms, are you here, sir? You still trying to get in?
No, I'm here. Actually, I'm
great.
just eating at the moment, which is why I muted the mic, so I didn't have any...
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, no, I'm around, I'm just listening at the moment.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, all right. I was just making sure you weren't having any issues like I usually have with Zoom.
No, I did have an internet problem earlier. I think I've solved it, though. So
very cool. All right. And, yeah, and actually, the problem I had with the audio actually was not Zoom's problem. That was OBS. The settings in OBS, for some reason, desktop audio, it's Pulse Audio had that thing to set to capture the audio through my mic for the desktop audio, which doesn't make any sense. So,
aren't there better ways to improve audio quality other than using Pulse Audio?
Yeah, I mean, I could use the Jack server, but that's kind of complicated to set up. I guess I could take the time and play with that sometime, but there's just no good options really for us in Linux. Audio's always been a problem. It's not a problem like for just your standard desktop user. Like if all I did was, play music and videos on my desktop with VLC, play the occasional game, that's fine. But when you do different things with, multiple inputs, like, multiple microphones, and things like that, play around with things like OBS and, the settings sometimes get messed up. They get wonky. You update the system. I'm running Manjaro, which is a rolling release, and sometimes I'll do an update, and all the settings in Pulse Audio have just been overwritten. I had them set to exactly the way they needed to be, and now they're not. So that happens kind of on a regular basis with me. So.
Well, when it comes to Linux, I mean, not only has audio been an issue, I mean, for most people in general, it's not just audio, but Wi-Fi is still pretty much an issue in Linux, because the thing about Wi-Fi is the Linux system has not found a proper way to stabilize Wi-Fi yet.
Well, the problem with Wi-Fi is, those chips require drivers. Most of them are proprietary, and if the maker of that chip doesn't make a driver for Linux, then it's up to the community to create a driver themselves. Try to reverse engineer something, and that can be kind of crazy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So
yeah, but the thing is, I mean, like with what happened to my computer, I still have that Wi-Fi issue, but it's not as bad as it was before, because I think distro hopping actually minimized it a little bit.
Yeah. And it also depends on the distro you install. Like I mentioned, the drivers are proprietary for your Wi-Fi for most chips. And some distros only ship free hardware. Things like Debian and Fedora, they're only going to ship free hardware by default. Where other distros like Ubuntu and Mint, they're going to install those proprietary drivers for you. So
yeah. I said this in one of Toss's streams a little back. When it comes to Wi-Fi, Windows had Wi-Fi down pat because they knew how to stabilize Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that was the only thing Windows had down pat, though.
Mm-hmm.
Well, audio. We were talking about the audio problems we have in Linux. You don't have audio problems in Windows either. How you doing, Punchbag Bob? I love the name. Audio, yeah. Can't hear you. Steve? Yeah, check the settings. It's always a problem with Zoom. Make sure that it's set to the correct input.
But anyway, I'm gonna get off here. If I'm in Toss's stream Friday, I'll see you then, okay?
Yeah, I'll check it out. Take care, Yu-Gi-Oh! All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, should all be okay now.
Yeah, you're good. We hear you.
Nice to see you, DT, and everybody.
Good to see you, Steve. Alistair, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm pretty
right.
busy now, as you can see.
Yep.
I'm just making my obligatory after dinner cigarette.
Yeah, and Zeb is here too. So pretty much we have the we have the Zoom pros here. All of us should have working audio and video because we've all used Zoom before. So.
Yeah, well, I use Zoom quite often anyway with somebody else, so it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the audio in Linux against Windows, the audio in Linux is just far superior to Windows, and I'll tell you for why. I can plug in, say, my laptop into the HDMI port to the TV. I can stream different audio to the TV and still use Zoom view, so I could be listening to music and not have it come through the laptop through Zoom. You can't do that on Windows. Windows only seems to have only one sound sync. So what you see is what you get. They have stereo mix, but everything goes through that, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And you can't split the channels up either. You can't have the microphone going through and play something up to desktop at the same time through stereo mix. You have to buy a mixer, or you have to buy an external USB card which does it for you.
Yeah. Well, it seems all my problems are, come with making videos or sometimes doing live streams. Obviously, Steve and Zeb, they do a lot of streaming too. You guys have problems with Pulse Audio, right? I'm not the only one that gets frustrated sometimes with it.
No, I've worked out how to use it on my system.
Really? I guess it's just me then.
Yeah.
I guess it's just me.
A bit of that.
Your particular mic that you've got, Derek, do you ever use the speaker part of it with headphones or anything?
No, I rarely plug headphones into it, no.
Yeah. So the first thing you do is open up Pulse Audio and make it input only, not dual. And then nothing can ever choose it to play the sound. Good point. Good point. Yeah, do your monitors have speakers?
No.
So therefore, Pulse Audio, you can also change it so that it's your speakers are output only, so that it's never going to get confused with any inputs on the front of your computer.
Now that you mentioned that, my monitors don't have speakers, but both the cameras I use both have mics. I need to also get rid of those because I never use the mics on the cameras.
Yeah, so that's the first thing I do. Whenever I set up a distro, I just go into Pulse Audio and turn off everything where I don't want it to come out of. That way, when you join Zoom, it's only got one mic that it can pick up because I've already turned the mic off on my webcam. It's just something that you need to remember every time you do it.
Yeah. So you just, every time you hop, you just take care of that?
That's just the first thing I do because
now, can I save...
trying to watch your video and it's coming out this this speaker here on the mic, and it's pointless because I can't hear it because I've not got any headphones plugged in.
Now, would that be something I could just like save the Pulse Audio config, or is it you have to do that manually just every time you?
Well, I do it manually because the only configs I ever save are Euro Truck, American Truck, my XFC panel settings now, and Thunderbird. So yes, I would imagine if you've got the same piece of kit and you're just using Pulse Audio, there must be a configuration somewhere.
Yeah, Pulse Audio has a config.
Yeah, just tuck it away and then plonk it on whatever distro. In fact, I'll have to try that because it is 5 minutes every time you load something up. So if I can just drop a file in instead. Yeah,
I mean, that's good stuff. Yeah, I hadn't thought about, I could just, because I save all my dot files and my config files anyway to GitLab. I just need to start adding the Pulse Audio to it. I normally don't save that one. So, yeah, once I get it set, and turn all the outputs off to where the only output is the correct one, or the only input is the correct one. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff,
yes, there is a Pulse folder, but I've no idea. There's a couple of text files in there, sync and source, whatever they are.
Yeah, usually, your config file should be saved to a plain text file. Is it
Yeah, the source here says ALSA input USB Studio M. That's the mic. Dot naught analog stereo. So I'm assuming analog stereo is sent to naught.
Yeah.
And then the default sync just talks about my equalizer. So it looks like there's two files, both text files. One ends sync and the other one ends source. I'm actually going to start copying those across to my other drive as well and see if it works.
I would just copy that then. If for some reason it doesn't work, you could delete that, and then Pulse Audio would create a default config file for you the next time you restart Pulse.
Yeah, but it looks like it is the right file. So well done, that man, because that's the one things I keep forgetting.
Yeah, and I'd never thought about just disabling everything other than
what you want to use.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff.
I have to say, Derek, I never have a problem with Pulse. It's really sweet. It's very
except whenever you come on Zoom.
That's because I'm forever installing OSs and not configuring them.
and the problem, he's talking, and Zeb was talking about, I've got a lot of different input and output devices, and it chooses the wrong one sometimes. The problem is I'll have everything set up like today doing this, and I could come back and do another stream tomorrow, live stream using Zoom, and all the settings will be, messed up again. And it's not because I changed anything. It's like in between now and say if I did this tomorrow, I would open up something else. Maybe it's Discord or something else that's going to use Pulse Audio, and for some reason it'll mess up the configs. And it's like every time I do something, I have to go play in the Pulse Audio volume control.
Yeah, no, well, mine's brilliant, but what you have to remember, Derek, is as you get older, and Zeb has caught me out on this many times, is that I've got the perfect Pulse Audio, and I come onto Zoom and there's no sound. And I'm like, really? 5 minutes later, after examining my Pulse Audio configuration, and everything is perfect, there's no sound. Why is that? Because I have the mute button pressed. Do take into account hardware.
Yeah, I have done that once before. I had an audio problem on a stream a few months back, and I did the same thing. I looked everywhere in Pulse Audio, and I could not figure it out. I'm typing to people in the chat, and I look at the mic, and it's blinking red, which means I hit the mute button somewhere along the way.
But I have to say, I do totally concur with Present Arms. Having constantly gone back and forth between Windows 7, 10 and Linux every time. Doesn't matter what the Linux distro is. I just find Linux so superior to Windows on audio, video, and more importantly, networking. It's just so superior. It really is in every possible way. It's just fantastic.
I'll tell you one place it's not superior. Disk.io.
Oh, Windows, yeah.
Yeah, if I'm on Linux and I'm copying a 200 gig file across and I'm trying to download a torrent via ISO and I start up my music player and trying to listen to music, and then I think, oh, I'll put that over to one side and try and open up my video player and watch a video, I get nothing out of Linux. I do that on Windows, every single one works.
Yeah, well, surely, Zeb, you can answer your own question. Who was Linux technically invented by?
Absolutely no idea.
Linus Torvalds from Helsinki. Okay, he was a man. He can't multitask. Windows invented by Mr. Bill Gates. That's a pseudonym for Billy Gates, who was originally a lady transformed into a male. He could multitask.
But that's just my findings. I mean, other people might have different findings. I mean, in every other area, yes, I prefer Linux.
I do agree with you on the multitasking. However, if you have a Windows 10 machine and any Linux distro of your choice, and you take exactly the same file on 2 USB drives and set them copying, by the time Windows 10's finished, your Linux has been done for at least 10-15 minutes, depending on the size of the file. You're on your second cup of coffee, and you're loading Steam up.
What, file copying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Linux butchers Windows.
Slow on Windows. There's a lot of things that are so slow. Updates. Don't talk to me about updates. I did a video on my channel about updating a 3-year-old OS to the present day, just to see if it would break it more than anything else. But the update only took about 20 minutes tops. For 3 years worth, 1,300 packages, no problem, 10 minutes done. And that's with a slow internet connection. Try that on Windows. You're talking 25, 30 minutes just for a simple update, and you think to yourself, what's it copying? How big is this file?
Well, it's a completely different system for a start.
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different file system, and I mean, it's, yeah.
I mean, the beauty of Linux is, and I've seen it happen, you can have Firefox open on your desktop. I can then go in and uninstall Firefox and still be using
Firefox.
And still use it, yeah, until you reboot. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and until I shut Firefox down, Linux doesn't ultimately get rid of it. Mm-hmm. So that side of it is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any experience on Windows, so I haven't used Windows in so long. And
I think you also have to bear in mind that Windows follows the same update throttling as Apple. So if it's an older Windows, it's throttled by default, isn't it? Plus the fact there's probably 10,000 people downloading a Windows update, and there's 3 people downloading a Linux update. So,
yeah, but even if you go into the networking on the task manager on Windows, it's still saturating your line. The download is actually saturating the line. And Microsoft do have decent servers at the end of the day to download off. So I can't. That isn't the reason why it's slow.
Do you want me to tell you the reason why it's so bad?
Yeah, please.
It's all down to networking, right? So when Linux does a network connection, it connects to the server. It says, right, you got a connection. The server says, yes, mate. He says, right, here's your data. Bang. On Windows, you get the connection to the server. Have you connected? Yeah, I've connected. Right, I'm going to send you 10 packets. Right, I've sent you 10 packets. Have you got them 10? Yeah, I've got them. Okay, I'll send you another 10. That's why Windows is so bad.
Because they talk backwards and forwards. There's got to be a yes, no for every packet you send.
I didn't think that's it.
Yeah, quickly, in the chat, Big Pod, he's asking, would I be interested in doing a debate with him between Windows and Linux? I haven't used Windows in a decade, so there's no reason to debate. I know nothing about Windows. You'd be better off debating Punch Butt. Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, I mean, Steve or Zeb I would be better at that. I really know nothing about Windows. Complete noob as far as Windows, so no on that from me.
Yeah, but what's the reasoning behind it, Big Pod? Are you just a Linux basher, or do you just like Windows?
Yeah, and also, what are you trying to debate? Are you trying to debate what aspects are better between Windows and Linux? Or are you doing like the philosophy behind them, like open source versus proprietary software, or you just, I don't know. You'd have to be a little more specific on what you're after on that too.
Mm-hmm. And the only reason I ask that is I've never seen the name before on any of the streams.
Yeah, he's a regular for me.
Oh, is he?
So, yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Yeah. But it is a good question. I'm assuming he is a Windows user though, which, I have a lot of people that watch my stuff that are Windows users. Maybe they're just interested in Linux, curious about it.
Yeah, absolutely, Darren. Yeah. That's a great shout.
Yeah.
I love going head-to-head with Windows fanboys, with Linux fanboys, and my favourite is the Apple Mac fanboys. I love that.
Yeah, but you have to go to Starbucks to find those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all McDonald's on the free Wi-Fi, definitely. But yeah, I'll go to head-to-head. I think everybody would know I'm not particularly a big Linux fanboy.
Yeah, and I think, if he wanted to do that with you, I think that would be a great conversation.
I think actually, Zeb, you should put that to Big Daddy. I think that'd be a great Saturday night with Barbara and, Ryan. And can you imagine Michael getting stuck into a Windows 10 fanboy? It would just be carnage, wouldn't it? It'd be fantastic for him. Whether it be family friendly or not is another question. But
well, that's the reason why it probably won't happen. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it is a Linux chat show, not let's beat up on Windows or let's have Windows beat up.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and I really can't bash Mac OS very much. I haven't used Mac OS since I was in college back in the 90s. So I mean, it's nothing like the old Mac I used to use. So.
Yeah, the last time I used a Mac, I picked it up off of the secretary's desk and used it to prop open the door because it was this nice square brick. I've never understood an OS that has one mouse button.
Yeah,
I think the whole Windows Linux debate can be summed up ever so easily. I really do. And if you think about it, it's totally logical.
PG.
Yeah, PG.
Keep it clean.
What is Windows trying to be? Windows is a desktop operating system that's trying to incorporate all the back-end server stuff and be your one-stop shop. And it fails miserably. If you look at the other side of the coin, Linux, as we know, is the most awesome server operating system, drives most of the internet, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
And we're now trying to integrate the desktop into Linux, and it's failing.
That's why this pivot.
That's it.
Yeah, this pivot that Microsoft is doing, trying to get into the server market, particularly the cloud server market. Your point is right, Steve. It makes no sense because who in their right mind would set up a web server with anything made by Microsoft?
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, I mean, when we have things like Debian and CentOS and Red Hat and Ubuntu, and I'd put any of that on a server before.
So if I could go back to any one point in history, it would have to be Redmond, right? Pre-release Windows 2000. So if you can just imagine, you've got the Windows Server team on one side of the table, the Windows ME team on the other side of the table. Bill Gates walks in and says, gentlemen, the Windows ME team's ready to go. The Windows 2000 server's ready to go. Actually, forget it. You're going to amalgamate the pair. And I'll catch you all after lunch. Oh, I'd have loved to have been there.
And we got somebody in the... Yeah, we got somebody in the chat. Mark Yates, he's mentioning about his Spider Oak sync. It messed him up somehow. Speaking of Spider Oak, I am a Dropbox user, guys. Dropbox sent me an email 2 or 3 days ago saying, sometime in November, Dropbox is no longer going to work for me unless my file system is unencrypted Extend 4. If I run any other file system on Linux, Dropbox will no longer work for me. That is a complete load of crap. So I am looking for a Dropbox alternative, and I was thinking about looking at something like Spider Oak or pCloud because it makes no sense why the file system matters for Dropbox. Because I have used Dropbox on every file system known to man on Linux, and it works right now. But for some reason, they want to no longer make it work in November, and I can't understand why they're doing that. Why, if I encrypted my Extend 4 drives, would that matter to Dropbox? I mean, are they trying to read these encrypted files? I just don't understand this. So
it's probably some kind of NSA injection that they've imposed.
Yeah, exactly. Because it shouldn't matter.
DT is Arab Money for Cash in the chat is going heavily into Blizzard content, such as World of Warcraft, that sort of thing. But with that being such an old game by today's standards, it runs absolutely flawless in Wine.
Yes.
Zeb loves me to say Lawtress. I can't see the point of doing that natively because it works. It's such an old. It's not like a AAA title that Yeah. So I've run World of Warcraft many a times on Linux.
I have heard from people I know that World of Warcraft and Wine runs pretty good. So we're good on that. As far as Blizzard ever supporting Linux, people have been asking for it for a decade, and Blizzard just flat out says no. They're never going to create Linux games.
To be honest, isn't kind of Blizzard's yesterday's news now in the game?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the world has passed them by.
Done. It's gone.
Yeah.
Who's got a desktop mic that's sitting on a stand?
Not me.
Because all I can hear is.
Oh, you hear some rattling? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that was me typing. I apologize. I'm reading the comments in the room as well, you see. So
yeah. Probably not much you can do on a laptop because the mic is
and I forget that my mic's on my laptop.
Yeah.
And of course,
no, that's fine.
Keystroke I do.
It's just like somebody talks about something. Can we get a little drum roll?
Yeah, I do apologize.
Now, are you listening? You're not listening to this on earbuds, are you, Zeb?
No.
See, I didn't notice it that bad actually. So it's just coming through your speakers that loud? His typing?
Well, if you look at behind Zeb, you'll see that he's got a £500,000 Bose hi-fi system there that can pick up flossing on your teeth.
That's just my empty boxes. I used to see them on Derek's stream, and I thought, what a cool way to hide my really badly painted wall. So I just put all me boxes of stuff.
That's exactly why I do it. Yeah,
I know. But Zeb, on Derek's stream, it does look pretty cool. On your stream, you're missing two things, mate. You're missing a trilby hat and a camel coat. You know what I'm saying? Zeb Arthur Daly's components. You know
what those boxes back there can hide though really well? Any kind of cables you've got running, and it looks kind of cluttered, but when you pile that stuff up in a corner and people think, oh, that's a neat little backdrop.
Yeah,
I have to say it looks pretty cool, Zeb, and Derek's looks cool. I've kind of got the same thing in my office, my man cave. However, Windows NT 4 and Spark OS don't quite cut it.
Well, it was funny. I'll never forget. I posted a picture of my 3 window setup because I was really, really pleased with it. Yeah, and I got 2 comments. One was, "Is that a Raspberry Pi on my desk?" And the other one is, "Why have I got Family Health on the left-hand side holding up the other monitor?" Nothing about my monitors, what I was trying to show people. It was, what's the Raspberry Pi and what's the name of the book?
You were gutted, weren't you, Zeb? You were gutted.
I was absolutely, It was like no comment at all other than the occasional, "Oh, that looks nice."
No. As a matter of fact, one of the boxes behind me, it's not on camera now, but sometimes I have a box that a Raspberry Pi I bought. Came in and people always see that box and like, man, what are you going to do with the Pi? What are you going to do with the Pi? I don't know. I installed a Raspbian on it. What ultimately am I going to do with it? I don't know. I just bought it. I'll eventually do something with it.
Join the challenge, the little challenge that me and Das Geeker got going. Who can find the image with the most retro games on it?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah.
I found one that had 5,000 on it. Then Ryan's now found one that's got like nearly 6,000 on it. And I'm just waiting for this last one to download, and I think I've topped him. So, yeah. See if you can find a Raspberry Pi image with mega games on there. So that's just something to do. Because like you, I put Raspbian on and I thought, yeah, great.
Now what? Yeah.
Now what?
Now there's a ton of things I can do with it. It's just, it's like, what do I really need to do with it, though, other than just play with it? I thought about actually... Yeah, we mentioned Dropbox support. I thought about installing Nextcloud on it. I don't know, doing something like that would make sense because I actually need an option there.
Well, you could do what Sudo does, and he puts It's not Chris Weir. It's the other guy. Who's the guy who created that like little firewall thing, advert blocker?
Oh, Quids.
Quids up.
Quids up.
Yeah, he's got. What's the name of that program he's got that stops everything?
I can't remember. It's like a DNS tracking thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, no, it just blocks. You just load it up with block lists, and it stops everything coming through. Or you could set up your own proxy server on one.
I could do like a VPN. I mean, there's a lot of things I could do with it. It's just, I'm not sure.
But it's the maintenance afterwards, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Personally, Derek, I think if you want a challenge, I think you should grab Sergey and Adrian and do a full Gen 2 server install configuration, complete with DNS server, set yourself a nice little SQL server up. That'd be a nice little stream for you for a couple of days.
I tell you what. Yeah. If I have 3-4 days straight off work, to do all that, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. But I'm sure you'd find something more enjoyable to do with 3 or 4 days off work.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, even if I wanted to do that, what am I going to do now? Okay, I have a Gen 2 server set up on my Pi. What am I using the server for? I mean,
well, you could use it for maintenance. Maintaining it and just doing updates would be a challenge.
Yeah, and I could have a Ubuntu server installed in 10 minutes.
Oh wow.
Or Debian or any other distro. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right, Derek, if you just give me 5 minutes, I don't mean to be rude. I've just got to pop and do something, and if he's still streaming, I'll BRB.
Yeah, I'll be on for a little while.
Yeah, honey back bun.
Okay, here's somebody. Is that you, Henky?
I'm not sure if what's me.
Yeah, we got some sound coming through your mic. Are you on earbuds? If not, you might want to get on some headphones. Otherwise, if you're listening to us on the speakers, it's going to bleed through your mic.
If you mean the background noise that you're hearing, that's not me. That's someone else in the call. I actually have push to talk enabled.
Okay.
Yeah, that might be Pizza Loving Nerd, actually.
Let's see. Yep, that was... No, it's still somebody else. Yeah, unmute.
But yeah, for the lack of a webcam, I hope this is a nice substitute.
Okay, yeah, I think it was Present Arms. Yeah, there's a little noise coming through his mic.
Yeah, I'm going to have to find some headset or something. Bear with me. I'll need my microphone.
Sure. And what are we looking at on screen here, Hinky? It says Windows engineer by day, Linux user by night.
That's essentially the summary of who I am for the lack of a face.
Okay.
So if people tune in and want to know more about me, a little summary. I'm a Windows IT engineer by profession. I help people with Windows problems, so I'm very familiar with them. I have followed Linux essentially since I was a small child, but it wasn't ever good enough until last year when I finally was able to make the switch on my laptop.
Okay. And what are you running on your laptop?
I am running Ubuntu 18.04, and ever since like the last KDE release of Linux Mint, I found the KDE desktop finally ready for my production. It was one of the first distros that, for example, did Control-Alt-Delete substitute very well. I always had the issue where if a game was freezing, I had no way to easily get out of that because the game would steal my keyboard focus. Mm-hmm. And KDE is one of the ones that captures the keys anyway, which makes those mundane things as closing a frozen game and things like Windows users would expect actually easy to do.
Yeah, KDE is a pretty easy transition for Windows users because the workflow and everything is kind of Windows-esque, I guess, more so than some other desktop environments.
So is that
a few years ago, I actually had to switch mindset in order to start appreciating Unix and Linux in general. Mm-hmm. My previous mindset was always, it has to be light, it has to be Linux, so go away with fancy things, go with light, and have something better than Windows, and I was never satisfied with it. And then I changed mindset, like if I want something like Windows, I should get something like Windows. So I went a little heavier with KDE, which is pretty light these days, but then I actually mimicked Windows, and then I started to really enjoy Linux. Yeah.
Well, anything...
So that was kind of the transition for me.
Yeah. All the Linux desktops are going to be light compared to Windows. Even the heavier ones will still be a little lighter than Windows. But yeah, KDE Plasma is quite a bit lighter than Windows. They've really got that thing kind of optimized a little better than it used to be. It used to be a little more bloated, but now it's not too bad.
Mm-hmm. So is that an i3 type setup you've got in your screen there, Henke, or is that just...
This is not my actual setup. I was inspired by a recent video, and I just completely faked like the hacker thing from YouTube.
Yeah, I actually recognize that program.
It's entirely different from this.
I was actually going to ask, is it the, what is it, the Hollywood script? There's a Linux script called Hollywood.
My audio setup is still on Windows, so I'm literally cheating in this entire code, which is probably why I didn't have any Pulse audio problems.
And for those that are not familiar with some of these fake hacker kind of tools, Hollywood is a script that it opens up all these random terminals and tiles them, and it runs things like C matrix and HTOP and a million other things, all in its own separate panel. So it looks like you're really doing a whole lot of hacker stuff on your computer, but none of this is actually Henke doing anything. Matter of fact,
I found it really fitting since it's actually just a background video. It's literally me looking cool without doing anything, but then taken into a whole new meta level.
Yeah, and you don't even have to be on a tiling window manager for that thing to work. It actually uses Screen or Tmux to actually split your terminal up into panes. So you can run this on any desktop environment.
Wow.
It does come with quite a few dependencies, though. I tried to app image it once, but didn't get that far with it.
Well, the dependencies are all the programs it's running. So each terminal pane is running its own separate program, and you do have to have those programs installed, of course. But other than that, there's no real dependencies. I mean, for most people, they're going to have a lot of this already installed on their system anyway. Most of these programs. Maybe not C matrix. That's not one that most people have installed because, it's just these random characters falling down your terminal.
And aside from the desktop usage, I've been using Linux a little bit longer on the server side. I run Ubuntu server there for a Valve game server. Since the Linux bugs and the Windows bugs have always been different on Half-Life, the Linux bugs were preferable for my certain setup.
Cool. And you say you're a Windows engineer. What exactly do you work on?
Normally, I work on support calls. So every time a Windows machine breaks, someone from the company will call me up, and I'm the guy who fixes everything.
Oh.
And that skill set kind of transitioned into Linux quite naturally. Obviously, the Linux setup is completely different, but the thinking patterns are the same.
Mm-hmm.
My bad, that was me. I just started to run Hollywood, and it come up with that music.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, yeah.
No idea how to mute it.
Music is included in that. Yeah, that's true.
Turn it off because I can't hear what you guys are saying. Hang on, close that. Oh, what?
There it is.
Is that the Mission Impossible thing?
Uh-huh. It really is.
So where on earth is that coming from? I've just closed it down, so why is it still playing?
Does it open a terminal music player of some kind?
The recent video on how to look like a hacker with the website version, or was that someone else?
No, that was me that did that.
I was surprised you didn't show off the actual terminal one in that.
Yeah. A lot of people actually assumed my video would be about the Hollywood script because so many people know about it. But I actually didn't even think to include that one. So, Zeb, what you might check, see if Hollywood opens in one of those panes, CMuse or one of those terminal music players. I bet it does. It probably also installed that sound file it's playing.
So for some reason, M player is playing in the background. Maybe that's part of the Hollywood script.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, it does. It opens in play.
And Pizza Loving Nerds in the chat, he's asking, can I stream tomorrow? I probably will not do a live stream tomorrow. At least I don't have anything planned for tomorrow. So, but you never know. Sometimes I just go with whatever.
Next thing you know, we'll have a notification of you streaming. Which is what happened to me. I was somewhere else and this box come up and thought, cool.
Yeah. Speaking of notifications, I have noticed that all the people I am subscribed to, and I'm subscribed to about, 60, 70 YouTube channels, most of them Linux related, and I don't get the notifications sometimes. I mean, sometimes I just randomly end up and, some of these other guys' streams, and it's been going for an hour, 2 hours, and I never got the notification, and I don't know why YouTube is broken. So
I've had that happen to me.
Yeah.
I heard somewhere that, and I can't remember where I heard it or where I read it, that if you have too many bell notifications, YouTube doesn't tell you them all. It will just randomly pick ones to tell you.
Well, I don't have the notifications turned on for all those 60 or 70 channels I'm subscribed to, but I probably have a dozen of them. I wouldn't think that's too many. It's not like
a dozen would be too many. No,
I heard rumors of a recent change where there's actually like a secondary bell icon option to once again confirm that you want it confirmed that you want the subscription notifications.
So where do you do that?
I believe it was on. I never did it myself because I don't use notifications. But I believe if you click the bell icon twice or something, it opens up. That's the kind of stuff I've heard.
Let me have a go.
No, the only thing that happens if you click the bell icon, the little ringer sounds disappear. If you click it, the ringer sounds appear. So with the ringer sounds on, that's when you should be receiving the notifications.
Yeah.
But double clicking it does nothing other than turn the little ringer bells on and off.
And I'll be logged into YouTube, both on my desktop and on my Android phone right here. And I'll get a notification on one and not the other, or vice versa. So
do you know what we had to do to cure that? Ferran OS is a clever lad. He actually set something up on English Bob's Discord, and he's got a big long list of YouTubers for us now. And as long as we've got Discord open, it always tells me a good 30 seconds before YouTube will tell me that someone's just gone online. I don't know how he's done it, whether it's a little bot or something, but he's got a whole list of people: Tosh, yourself, English Bob, Sudo Reboot, and about 15 others. So I always try and have Discord open so that I get the notifications that someone's on. It's like you joining the stream 25 minutes later going, what did you say? What's the OS? What are you doing?
Oh, yeah. Or my favorite here lately, I join and everybody in the chat is saying bye. And it's like, oh, okay.
By the way, Farron, sorry to interrupt. Farron, if you're interested in the chat, could you add Derek to that list as well, if possible, buddy? Thank you.
I thought he was on there.
Not sure, but just in case he's not, can you make sure he is?
Now, is this some kind of script that he's using, or how is Discord sending the notifications?
Well, this is what Farron is saying, done by yours truly.
Okay.
But I don't know what he did, so maybe you can explain it to us, Farron, in one of your War and Peace texts.
Typically, what communities do, there's pre-built bots that offer the service, and they can just enter the channels to monitor. Alternatively, he might host something himself. I'm not clear which one he specifically uses, but there's a couple that do it, especially for Twitch.
Yeah, I think he's got.
I have to say,
Me6 and now live.
Yeah, I don't think it's working though, because it didn't detect or post on the list here that I was live earlier on.
Yeah, it did.
That's interesting. No, it didn't. I'm on it now. I can't see it.
Well, keep in mind, some of the bots remove the announcements.
Go down.
Gone live and then stopped streaming. They remove it again.
Go down to the bottom, and you've got 2 for the 28th. Do you remember when yours?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking in the wrong place, aren't I? Yeah, actually, Derek is on there because it's now saying that he is live streaming.
Yeah, YouTube
Apologies,
friends.
I was looking in the right. Yeah, YouTube friends. Yeah. So that's great. So thanks ever so much, Farron. That's fantastic.
It's that old age thing again, Derek, creeping up on him.
Yeah. I'm not.
Ignore him, Derek. He's older than me. I'm just better looking and he's jealous. Can't help that.
I'm catching up with you guys. So.
Derek, you are miles way better looking than me and Zeb will ever be. Trust me.
I was about to say.
Well, I actually hate Rocco the most because I think he's the most incredibly good-looking guy. I really do.
Wow.
There's an embarrassed silence.
Yeah, I don't even know where to go with that. So.
No, he's just a real
Backs away slowly. Yeah, you're right.
Step away from the keyboard. Huh?
Thanks.
Something you want to tell us?
Let's just hope you never find him on top of you on Zoom.
Wow.
Yeah, really, you got to do this, ain't you? Really?
I tell you what, don't ever join a ballistic overkill game with Rocco because he shows no mercy with that.
He's
he hasn't met the British squaddies yet. You wait till me and Zeb get a slice. We'll be tearing it up. Don't worry about that.
If you guys ever wonder how Rocco spends all of his free time, man, the way he does that sniper and ballistic overkill, he is pretty dang good at that game.
He's unreal. He's only got to pop his head round the corner. See you, lift the rifle up, you're dead.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
And somebody was asking in the chat, how many of us game at least twice a week? I don't game that much. I don't know, Zeb or Steve, if you guys are into games. I know Steve, loves Trucker, but
yeah, that's the only thing I'll stream more than once a week. Euro Trucks, and I'll play it virtually every day. But any other game, nah. I've got 89 installed. I don't think I've played 8 of them.
Yeah, I've got about 5 games. I play most of them offline, to be fair, because on a game like something like Star Wars The Old Republic, with it being an MMORPG, you can only run somewhere and do something so many times before everybody in the chat has just gone, really? Died. It's, if you're not doing it and it's not your passion, it's boring, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's like, if it's a first-person shooter, then absolutely every single game and scenario is different. So something like Ballistic Overkill or War Thunder, it's a little bit more exciting because everything's different. It's never repetitive as such.
Yeah, and, the very occasional game streams that I do are almost always first-person shooters, and I usually let people join me, like, in-game and on my Discord voice channel. So there is some interaction with the folks, but other than those, I never game. The only time I game is when I do those streams.
I have to say, I would just like to float a rumour on the internet with you all praising Rocco being so good with a sniper rifle. Any thoughts of an aimbot? Just a thought.
Now that's already, Dusky has already tried to dish that one out for I don't know how long.
As the old Ryan's got straight on the aimbot bandwagon.
Absolutely. It's only because he gets him every single game about 20-to-1 ratio.
Yeah. And, an aimbot probably wouldn't be too hard to get up and working in Linux. So
that's actually a very interesting point you guys are raising there. I've heard talks in the community that on Linux, aimbot is not even detectable. Most anti-cheats are not ported to Linux, and if it runs as root, the anti-cheat user level.
The anti-cheats work on Linux, but on Windows, but not on Linux.
I can let you all know, hand on heart, and I probably shouldn't reveal this. I will have to contact my solicitors after the live stream. I have actually used an aimbot on Linux in World of Tanks for about 2 weeks. Never got banned, never got detected, and I was doing hits and everything else on other tanks which were just not possible. So, and it's rife in the Russian community. But of course, that's not a Steam aimbot, of course.
Well, send us a link because I need to beat Rocco.
Yeah. And while we're talking about this, I have long suspected that a lot of the people that love to cheat on these Steam games with these aimbots, most of them are probably using Linux, and that is how they defeat, some of the anti-cheat.
And the thing is, Derek, for people who say, well, where do you find these aimbots? You've only got to go, to any Russian forum of the game you want an aimbot on, and you can take your pick. They're unbelievable.
Yeah.
In fact, I can even one-up that. There's one CSGO hack known in the community, which is literally open source on some GitHub somewhere. You can compile it yourself for Linux. Valve can see the source code, and they can't do anything about it because it's on Linux.
Yeah, I was going to mention the same thing, that there are some open source hacks on GitHub for these games.
Now, people in the chat, please don't do that, because the admins will still ban you. After all, I am a server owner. I don't actually want you to use that stuff on my server. Yeah. But the stuff does exist, which means it is something that eventually, especially if Proton becomes a thing and if Linux gaming becomes bigger, will be a difficult issue to deal with for the anti-cheat developers.
Now, the anti-cheats probably do work on the Proton games because that's running through Wine. So,
although I have to say, the second you use an aimbot, you totally destroy the game you're playing.
Absolutely. It is no longer any fun. The only reason why it would be fun, Zeb mentioned, just to give Rocco a taste of his own medicine.
Just for one game.
Yeah, just for one game.
Hilarious to see Zeb Rocco 20 times to nothing and have Rocco just going, what's going on here?
Whilst I'm hiding behind a wall.
And if he could do it on a live stream, that would make it even better.
I was going to say, while he's streaming and listening to Spotify at the same time.
Yeah. Make sure you record the game too, Zeb. That way Rocco can't take the video down.
So have you guys dug deep into Proton so far, or am I the only one who really tried like many games on it?
I haven't tried it yet because I don't own a Windows machine at all. So I don't want to pay for one of these Windows games, and what if it doesn't work on my Linux machine? I'd be kind of out of luck because I've got nothing else to run it on. So.
Keep in mind, some of these games are completely free. Quake Champions is probably on the list. You could try that one. Fallout Shelter is on the list. That one should be free as well. So there's definitely free options you can try if you don't have a game to test it with.
Yeah.
I have very mixed feelings about it. I think on the one side of the coin, I think it's fantastic for any desktop Linux user who now technically and potentially has access to their whole library of games. My gut on the other side of the coin is, why don't you just install Windows 10 and just enjoy all the games?
No.
Well, for me, the answer to that is quite simple. I'm trying to run away from Windows 10 because I know how it works under the hood, and they are screwing things up big time. Every time I build a script to set up my settings properly, it's broken the next thing, settings are removed. It's really nonsensical, and Linux is getting better and better.
Yeah, but the thing is, Hanky, if all you're going to do is use your PC box for gaming, then just run Windows. Who cares? It's just a platform to allow you to do your games. That's it.
Yeah. The only other thing I've got against it, and it's not, and I suppose it will become a moot point if every single Windows games works, you won't have any people developing for Linux now because it's the smaller of the two markets. They'll develop a game for Windows. They know that Steam and all the other guys are going to do the hard work, so they can sell it to all the Windows people and then sell it to all the Linux peoples without major development coming through.
Yeah, that's a great shout, actually, Seb.
Well, there's a lot of people that have made that argument, but there's also people saying that these games that are installed using this Proton wrapper, they will be reported as Linux users. Mm-hmm. So the developers will still know that, hey, you've got all these people running your game on Linux. So they will have hard data that, hey, you know, if there's a substantial number of us that are using your game, maybe they will create, you know, a native client.
Personally, I have a bit of a controversial stance on that, I believe. Mm-hmm. I really don't care if it's a Linux port or not. What I care about is the game fun? Does it run well on my system? Great example here is Doom 2016. I've installed it on Linux. I get 200 frames per second on Windows. I get 200 frames per second on Linux. It's Vulkan 1-to-1. Performance is great. Stability is great. I don't need someone to completely compile a Linux binary and test it for the platform if the same can be achieved through better use of the Vulkan API and some wine-specific testing, because what that's going to mean is that the effort that the community has to do in order to get it running in Wine can then be easily done by the developer. So I think it's actually going to result in more and better Linux gaming experience. Yes, it's no longer manually translated by a person, but if these same developers actually use the Wine system to optimize for that and achieve similar performance as a native port, which is often used with translation tools anyway, then it doesn't really matter in my eyes. It's just literally you click on the game and it runs great.
Right. As long as you don't have to do anything fancy in the back end to get Vulkan and whatever working. Because as just a Joe Blogs user, you show me an install script, you show me a compile script, and my eyes just glaze over. I haven't got a Scooby-Doo, and I go next, and I move on to the next thing. This has got to be download it, install it, run it, and it works with no configuration.
Yeah. Also, he mentioned, you know, that for every game, you know, he mentioned one game, Doom, you know, is comparable on Windows and Linux, but that's not going to be the case with every game. I've already seen people, you know, on forums and stuff say that they get, you know, 100 frames per second more on some games using the Linux version rather than the Proton version, the Steam Play version on some games. So
yeah, and the other big issue really, Derek, is Steam's not the be-all and end-all of AAA gaming. Right. We all know that one of the most popular games on the planet at the minute is Fortnite. That's a Steam game. So if you want to play Fortnite, you've still got to run
Windows. Use Windows. Well, I mean, this Proton thing that Steam is playing, I mean, could it be used outside of Steam? I mean...
It can, but there's little point to. You can technically run it outside of Steam. It's entirely open source, but
yeah, I mean it's all wine and
can be achieved with Lutris. Lutris will work with Overwatch perfectly, for example, using the same technologies behind the scenes.
Yeah, Henke, I'm sorry. Could I just correct you there?
No. Stop. He said it perfectly correct.
No. Henke, it's not Lutris. It's Lutris.
Lutris.
Pronounce it correctly. Ignore that, because he ain't got a Daniel LaRue what he's on about.
Lutris.
Wait. I'm confused about the pronunciation now. I didn't know there was a debate. I've always thought it was Lutris.
Well, there's only a debate in English.
Instead of Give.
Bob's a chav. Have you guys heard of Luton Airport?
Yeah.
So have you guys heard of Lawton Airport?
Mm-hmm.
So it must be Lutris.
Yeah, Zeb, how do you spell Lou?
Hello.
Right, so how would L-U be Lou? It's law.
Spell Luton.
End of. There's no argument.
Spell Luton.
It's because you're a pearly king.
Spell Luton. Luton.
Yeah, I know.
Luton
but if you
Airport.
go back in history, that was initially
You can go back as far
pronounced
as you want.
Lawton.
I'm going to find that website.
It's only because Chavs invaded Luton and decided to call it Luton.
I'm gonna get you the definitive answer.
Oh, you ain't got.
Am I the only culprit in the talk?
I think both of you are probably right. I just think Steve is using the old English. And
yeah, the Queen's
Yeah,
English, Derek. Yeah, it's something that Zeb wouldn't have a Scooby-Doo about. You know what I'm saying?
Right, hang on a minute. Then let's go Control C. Let's go back to the stream. Pop it into there. Pop that into there. Now everybody can read. Oh, I can't.
Although my cup's empty, I need to make me one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the sound working, by the way? Can you hear?
Yes, you're good, Rob.
Yeah, it sounds fine, dude.
Yeah.
Might be my change working.
This is OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. It's coming off after this as well.
Nice.
Oh, it's a disaster.
So SUSE Tumbleweed, are you using Plasma?
Yeah. I was quite excited with it. I've had it on a couple of days, and it seemed okay at first.
Now that's a big change for you, because I know I've seen some videos of you recently. Weren't you running Bunsen Labs and OpenBox and yeah.
I nuked that and put this on because I wanted to try Plasma, so I thought it would be this or Neon.
Yeah. I did the same thing a few months back. I was a long time OpenBox user, and for a challenge, I was going to use Plasma for a month, and man, I was so glad when that 30 days was up and I could go back to OpenBox. Not that Plasma was horrible; it's just different,
The Plasma on this is fine. It's OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. It's the problem. It's billed as a kind of a midway between it's supposed to be a stabilized rolling release.
There's no such thing.
Well, I can't understand what they mean, because it basically they issue on a daily basis. They issue a new ISO, and you jump between ISOs, and the ISO is tested. Unfortunately, the packages within the ISOs not. So
I wish people would stop, saying their rolling release is stable. I hear this from the Arch users all the time, that maybe Debian Sid is unstable, or maybe Gentoo is unstable, but Arch is stable. No, it's not. You're just as rolling as those guys are. I think the same things break. When Python had that major update a couple of weeks ago, that happened in Arch, broke every Python app in Arch. Happened in Gentoo, did the same thing in Gentoo. It happened in Sid. It probably happened in Tumbleweed if you were on it at the time.
It did. So, their snapshots around that time are all rated as unstable.
Yeah. They're all unstable. Yeah, you're always going to have breakages. Yeah.
Rob, can I ask you a question about Tumbleweed?
Yeah,
because I tried it yesterday, and I could just not figure out how to update the kernel on that thing. It installs the package, so I have multiple packages of the same name.
Yep.
But whatever I did, it kept the old kernel, and I could not figure out how to upgrade it.
I think there is a feature within YAST where you can go in and you can actually do kernel updates. I think there is a facility within that. I've not tried it, but I think I saw it in there when I was poking around in it yesterday. It should automatically do it though when you do a zipper dup in terminal. So if you do a distribution upgrade, assuming that the kernel has changed since the last snapshot.
That's what I did, and it installed it as a new package, but it didn't actually switch kernels for me.
Oh, when you reboot, make sure in the grub menu, assuming it's using grub, that you might see multiple kernels listed.
That's the strange thing. I saw it compile in the logs. I know it's there, but it is not in the grub menu. It just did not do that, and I could not get it to do that even with the grub update. Not
even in the advanced section, because I noticed I was playing around with a different kernel today. I had 4.18.5 installed, and the new one I installed was 4.18.4. And until I went into the advanced section, saw the list of all the kernels and picked it from there, it didn't have that. But once I picked it once, it remembered it and it kept it. So it might be hiding away somewhere in an advanced section.
I checked that. With Ubuntu, that makes perfect sense, and that's exactly how it works. But even there, it did not show up. So I don't know why that happened.
Okay, is my audio working then?
Yeah, but you've got... yeah, there you go. Yeah, you're good.
Is that it? Okay, cool.
So, Derek, if I may, I'd like to announce a world first on your live stream.
Yes, sir.
Are you ready? I have a new addition to my family. Her name is Bella. She is 13 weeks old, and I think she's the most gorgeous-looking, lively little bundle of fur ever. So I would like to reveal her live on your live stream, buddy. You all ready?
Let's do it.
Meet Bella.
Can't quite see her, mate. Lift her up.
Raise her.
Oh, hey, huge.
How cool is that? How cool is that?
Yeah.
She is gorgeous. Look. Little poppet, isn't she?
She's a little sweetie.
Hey, she's a little cutie. She's a bit like Zeb, a cheeky chappy, you know what I mean? So there you go, everybody. On Derek's stream, a world first, our new family member, Bella. How cool is
Bella.
That? So thank you very much, Derek, for that.
And do you know what she does? When she yaps, she goes, Lutris.
Lutris.
You're so going to get it, Zeb. You're just in trouble.
What we're going to have now is we've got Switch to Linux who uses Kitty of a big border stream, and now Punch Bag is going to be using the poor puppet.
Cam. Yeah. And I have a cat, and I have never allowed my cat in this room while I record or stream. So he has never been on one of my videos, but I actually own a cat. I just don't allow him in here while I do this thing because I know he's going to jump on the desk and be everywhere. So.
A bit like Barbara's lot.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
On Big Daddy Linux. And or one of them, what they did to Ryan, he had this really expensive set of headphones and they chewed through the cable.
Chewed, yeah.
Yeah, like $200 worth of headphones chewed straight through the cable.
Wow. That sounds like Ryan to buy $200 headphones. $8 right here. So $8 from Walmart.
Yeah.
It's free with the phone.
15 from the UK equivalent of Walmart, Asda.
Yeah.
I don't spend enough time with headphones to worry about having that kind of quality. Can I hear through them? Other than that,
there's a free with the cell phone.
Some Audio Technicas kind of these things here. They are expensive, but I can't go on live streams with headphones like that on because the way it sounds, I like to be able to hear what I'm saying. And I don't like hearing through headphones.
Right.
So I just don't
the other thing as well, Rob, do you find as well that when you're wearing glasses, no matter how good the headphones, after a while, the pressure on the arm, on your ears, it hurts.
Yeah, I've resolved that, Zeb. It's very, very easy. And all you do is put your glasses on and just rest them above your ears. There you go. Okay. No pressure points. Dead easy, dude. Important safety tip for you there.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'll try that on the next stream I do.
Yeah, it works. But you're absolutely right. If you do a stream for any length of time, you've got such pain when you take your headphones off. It's horrendous, yeah.
For me, it's only been an issue with the on-the-ear headphones. The over-ear headphones, they don't actually touch my ears, and that's actually really comfortable for like days.
Yeah, somebody was showing me a pair. Somebody was on Big Daddy Linux, and they had this enormous pair of headphones that go straight over the top of the ear. Therefore, the padding is like missing your ear completely. So maybe, but even so, you'd still get a bit of it touching it there. But
for me, that little bit is actually really comfortable, but the ones that are actually on your ears get uncomfortable in like 30 minutes for me.
And but I have to say, I do love wearing headphones, especially for gaming.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I was about to mention that Peter in the chat was saying my comment about not wasting money on headphones. He says if you game, sound adds as much as good graphics to games. So
couldn't agree more. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right then, Derek. It's been a blast, but I've got to shoot because I've got another meeting I've got to attend at 9 o'clock. So
thanks for hanging out.
I just downloaded the discussion settler.
All right.
Cheers then.
All right. See you, Zip.
Cheers, Zebby.
Cheers, Zeb.
So once again, my sincere thanks. Lautris. In the Queen's English, it's Lautris. Ignore Zeb. You know what it's like. I'd just like to say sincere thanks to Lautris. Yeah. Henke, I'll catch you later, mate. Trust me. That's it. Just hack.
That one actually did not play in my headset, so I was uncertain if it played the first time. But it's
it's great. It's really good. But I'd just like to sincerely thank you very much indeed, Derek. Please keep your content coming. Thoroughly enjoy it. Just going from strength to strength. Nice to see you present. Nice to see you, Henke. Nice to see everybody in the chat. Much love, and I'll catch you all.
All right.
On somebody's live stream next time.
All right, we'll see you.
Cheers, everybody.
All right.
Yeah, take care, Derek.
All right, good
See you
evening.
next time, Bob.
All right, and I'll probably be on for another 15 or 20 minutes here. I planned on being on for about an hour and a half, so it's the time I had allotted for this today. So, got to keep to my schedule. Got somewhere to be.
Glad I caught it. I dashed home from the train, sat down in front of this newly installed machine, no earphones, I couldn't hear anything, and I had no Zoom installed, so I'm wondering why I can't launch anything. So I had to install Zoom on the system as well, get the sound working.
Yeah. Hey, Hinky, Serge in the chat is he had posted a link for you as far as some OpenSUSE documentation that might help you with that kernel problem you were having. It not showing up in the menu.
I actually already checked that one, and it was already set to do the latest one, which is like the problem which I was having when I was on Tumbleweed. I'm currently on Kubuntu again.
Okay.
It showed up the package as from that repository. It was the latest version, but then I would have a separate version which was at system, which was the old one. If I remove the old one, the entire system no longer boots because that deletes the only kernel that was in there. If I run a manual grub config, that didn't work, and the new one I just could not get to be added to the list, at least not automatically.
Yeah.
At which point I figured that using PPAs on Ubuntu was easier than trying to figure that out, and I switched back to Ubuntu again.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I haven't had that problem. Yeah. I mean, I run a rolling distro. I run Manjaro, and I get kernel updates, and they appear in my menu. Now, when I reboot my machine, now sometimes the latest kernel is not in that menu. But again, you can go into an advanced mode and grub, and then all the kernels that are on my machine will be there. But a lot of times, it'll just always boot into the kernel I was in before. So if I install a new kernel and reboot, it'll still boot me into the one I've been using, unless I go and change it. So.
Which distribution are you running distro to?
I'm running Manjaro.
Okay, because with Arch I didn't have the issue, with Ubuntu I didn't have the issue. It works exactly like you said. It's just OpenSUSE with my encrypted boot partition being really funky.
Yeah. Well, you might post on the SUSE support forums, because they may be doing something, for their distribution that the rest of them aren't doing. If it only happens.
The goal to try it out for me was to have a distro that I can just install, works with the bleeding edge stuff, because my Vega 64 doesn't really run that well on 4.15, so I always have to manually update the kernel first. I just wanted an out-of-the-box distro, and SUSE have proven so difficult that I could either spend all my time trying to get that to work out of the box, or I can just go back to Kubuntu and have it work with one kernel update. So the latter option for me has proven to be a little bit better than Tumbleweed so far.
A problem with Tumbleweed.
I'm on 4.18.3, but when I update, see, I'm on PC Linux OS. All the updates update, but the kernel never gets updated. You can do that yourself by going into Synaptic and choosing your kernel, and it always installs to your grub menu, always. So I'm on 18.3 right now, but my unusual kernel is actually in the LTS 4.15.
Yeah. And that's what I have I usually default to the last LTS kernel on my Manjaro. Even though I have the latest kernel, I usually boot into whatever that last LTS was. Was it 4.14 or 4.15? Yeah.
Yeah, it's 4.15.65.
Yeah.
Is the latest one.
It also seems to pull in beta software. The Tumbleweed I'm using at the moment is pulled in a beta version of Kden Live, for example, and it's faulty. It doesn't work properly.
Yeah. But it's different for different people because, you know, I have an NVIDIA card, so I have to use proprietary graphics drivers. Hinky is using his, you know, new AMD Vega 64, which all that is kind of baked into the kernel. So he needs, you know, some of the new kernels to get it. Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you, but you're a little low.
Ubuntu will be completely fine. For now, it requires one update to not randomly crash. For me, I was using the Ubuntu kernel update utility. That works great. But with the new script that Valve has on the Proton GitHub, it actually pulls in the latest 4.18 with Steam VR support in like one command line. So I switched over to that.
Yeah, Stephen Anderson in the chat said 4.19.3 is experimental. Yeah, I probably would wait till an official release of a kernel before trying to install it, unless there's something in that kernel you absolutely have to have. There's some brand new piece of hardware that usually I don't even bother updating a kernel. I just stick to the LTS kernels. If what you're using is working for you, there's really no reason to upgrade to the latest kernel.
In fact, in your specific case, upgrading to the latest and greatest is actually a really bad idea because the binary driver for NVIDIA will not be out yet. For me, it's beneficial to do it, but if you are on the NVIDIA, just stick what the distro gives you by default, and you'll not run into like many issues.
Once you got all your hardware, you know, everything's working. Going to a new kernel, there's no reason to. If everything's working, I mean, I'm not sure what you're going to get out of the new kernel, other than potentially everything not working. So there's
that's a problem for me personally. I do what Arch does, and that's it. If Arch updates, I get new kernel. If not, I don't.
Yeah,
easy enough.
Yeah, because by the time it's rolled out in Arch, I mean, somebody's tested it at least. You know, hopefully it doesn't wreck your system.
If it does, I have backups, and I image my system, so I just go by the last image, which is normally install, but sometimes even do it in between, like when I'm doing like important stuff or want to have like specific settings, I image it.
And in the chat, in the chat, Cam2 says, I use Arch, by the way. You know that meme. You know, Arch users always got to tell you he uses Arch.
Let's be clear, I'm using Arch for like a couple of days now. Normally I'm on standard Ubuntu.
Yeah, well, Ubuntu's nice too. I've used, you know, Ubuntu
I'm that kind
a lot
of
over the years. Yeah.
Still thinking of going back to Ubuntu, but for now I'm going to be Arch. But like, I'm not like those guys who use i3. I use GNOME.
Honestly, I could live happily ever after on like the Ubuntu LTS releases. I could install it and then every 2 years move on to the next LTS, and I would be just fine with it. There's no reason to run something like Arch or Gen 2 or anything like that if you don't need to. I mean,
for my personal experience, if you run something Ubuntu based on really obscure stuff, the chances are that it actually works the best out of the box. I have had numerous things not work great on the other distros. Unfortunately, Ubuntu now adopted a few of those things.
Well, a lot of that has to do with user base. There are so many more Ubuntu users than all other distros combined. So the more people that are using that obscure hardware to report the bugs for it, you know, the smaller distros, you know, they just don't have enough of a user base to know about all the problems that, you know, some of the strange hardware that's out there.
We have to use Ubuntu because it's the only thing that supports the applications for our company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably in a business setting, you probably would want to use something that has some kind of commercial backing anyway. Ubuntu, SUSE, Red Hat. You would want something that you could call and get support if needed. So. So, Archaic, what are you running?
So yeah, I run Ubuntu 18.04 as our daily driver at work.
Okay. And is that what you run at home, or are you a Windows user at home, or?
At home, I have everything. So I have Windows, Mac, and
Oh
Ubuntu.
wow. Okay. It's
So
got the trifecta.
Yeah, I like to kind of keep abreast of everything, so it leads me to be able to have a bit more of a rounded opinion about it.
That's cool. I would love to have a Mac to play around with to check out Mac OS every now and then. But I was looking that latest MacBook Pro, the souped up one that just came out not too long ago. That's $7,000.
Yeah, and it overheats like hell.
I was watching.
Do you have VMware on your machine at all?
No, I don't have it installed. No.
Because VMware actually used to support macOS out of the box like years ago, and that code is still in there. So there are multiple cases of either VirtualBox or VMware being able to run OS X fine.
Yeah, I'm sure I could find a VirtualBox image for it too if I wanted to check it out.
I actually had got from someone a Hackintosh, basically on an actual hardware Mac computer, Mac OS. But problem was that if you want to install original OS, you must have a Mac hardware. First and foremost, to download from their website, you must have Mac. Then you can install it on your own hardware.
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually that good or that bad. It worked. I then deleted it and done some other stuff on it. Actually, I believe this computer is actually still working. Probably has it's Ubuntu server on it. I had it for a server for a long time.
And speaking of Macs, especially the MacBook, it's so popular, even with free and open source software developers. You see people using Macs to develop on, even Linux developers using Macs. I know a lot of the guys that work at Canonical, a lot of those guys work with Macs. And of course, there was a controversy several months back. Who was the head of the Linux Foundation that was doing a presentation about Linux, and he was doing it on a Mac at some conference, and he took a lot of heat about that because he's a Mac user and he's part of the Linux Foundation. So.
I come to class and basically it's a sea of MacBooks and one HP Omen that I use.
Yeah. This is the same around here as far as at the universities, because they give the students, Apple does, a little bit of a discount on MacBooks. You see a lot of MacBooks on college campuses, unfortunately. Well, I won't say unfortunately.
People here buy it just because it's Apple.
Yeah.
And you see everyone has MacBooks and iPhones. I have a HP and a Sony phone.
No.
Basically, and I actually sit directly in the middle. No. So it's basically see all around me.
Surrounded.
Well, I'm sure the Apple hardware is good hardware, but you're paying a premium to have that Apple logo on that machine.
DistroTube. Have you watched Louis Rossman as of late?
No, I have not.
He's awesome.
That guy literally tears Apple to pieces of how terrible their hardware is.
He hates their hardware, but he actually likes their software.
Really?
Actually, software is actually really good. Even I can say that, even though I hate Apple to the core.
Yeah, because the software, if I bought a MacBook, I probably would still run Linux on it, I would dual boot probably. I'd probably keep Mac OS, but still. Yeah.
You must keep Mac OS. You can't have only Linux on there.
Yeah. And we have Toss in the chat. He says, you pay for the service.
Archaic, I have a question for you. You said you have Linux on your work computer. Is that integrated into a business network of any way? Like Active Directory, you log in with your corporate account, it sets up everything automatically?
We use an application called Jump Cloud, which acts as a Active Directory thing, but it's a cloud-based kind of solution which we install an agent on everyone's computer to then be able to control that.
interesting because everyone always talks about the year of desktop Linux, and we have to have games, and we have to have a good home experience. And I actually think that's not the biggest issue for Linux. As someone who supports Linux in the corporate environment and as a system administrator, I know that the jump is actually being held back because there's no good, solid small business environment on Linux.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, as an engineer, how to build Active Directory with policy management, access restrictions, automatic user syncing on a Linux-only platform. I know SUSE does a little bit of it. I know some servers like Zenshell do a little bit of it. But I don't have an actual easier all-round solution for a company to safely move towards.
Yeah, so we have Mac, Windows, and Linux users. We use Jump Cloud to manage all of them. So they get given a username and a password. And basically, using Jump Cloud then, I can put their username on any laptop. I just assign them to a laptop that has the agent installed. And then Jump Cloud can also sync with Microsoft 365. So they get an Outlook and all that through Office 365. And then we use something called AutoMox, which is another agent, which then tracks all the packages, all the applications, and I can see them whether they're installed or patched, and I can force them to reboot and update, and I can do that on all three environments.
Henki, on Active Directory, I actually have I have a couple of servers. I have one server that runs Microsoft Active Directory, the Microsoft, and I don't remember how, but there is a software that can actually hook from Linux into Microsoft's Active Directory. I believe it's called Cerberus, but I'm not 100% sure. And actually can log in from Linux into my Windows Active Directory.
Like I said, I know of a few distributions like SUSE does this really well with DIASPORA that can do that out of the box. The problem is I don't have a better than Active Directory solution on the Linux end, like something with active group policy management, access restrictions, etc. At most, you can get the login to work, but user profile syncing is an issue, and it's just not there yet. And I would like to be more focused from there.
Even then, it's I have just a login information, what I have, but otherwise, group policy and stuff like that, even there, I can't really set it up. But maybe FreeIPA has it. I believe that's also another one of Active Directory like management solutions. FreeIPA, IPA. Maybe try that one. I know it has single sign-on and policy, but I'm not 100% sure if it works.
One of the things I wanted to ask everybody before we shut this down for this evening, did anybody try the Windows 95 app that is available in Linux, where you can basically, it's this program you install, but it basically emulates Windows 95. Well, it's basically Windows 95 running in Linux. What was this over on OMG Ubuntu? I saw the other day. Somebody created this Electron app. Let me show you guys, if you guys happen to be watching the live stream. But it basically, like you hear in this web screenshot here, see this window opened up in Ubuntu, but this is Windows 95 here. Somebody created this Electron app here.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah,
I saw it, but I've been too scared to try because it kind of violates probably quite a lot of copyright law.
Yes, that was my question. Did this guy, did he get permission from Microsoft? I mean, Windows 95 is ancient software, but still, there are some companies out there that still use Windows 95 because they're still running pieces of software that only run on it. So,
I think I've seen Windows NT running on a cache point not too long ago.
Yeah, I know of a very large retailer that I know of that their POS system still runs Windows 2000 or maybe even 98. It's an ancient version of Windows. It's definitely pre-XP. And somebody the other day was in one of the free chats was saying that they knew that Lowe's for a while has switched to Linux. He says Lowe's was using DOS for a while on their systems.
I actually seen Windows XP on a cash machine at the local gas station. Like, it was actually rebooting right in front of me. Yeah. And it was Windows XP.
Very common.
Yeah.
A lot of embedded devices run Windows Embedded, and usually the versions based on Windows XP, especially things like payment terminals, because they're just extremely hard to replace. And those are probably still in support for a few years, so it's not like they're unpatched.
Yeah, but I also saw a lot of Windows 10 or 8.1 versions that you can see a lot as well.
And you know, we're the kind of people that go around, and every time a computer reboots, we pay attention to what loads up on it. I've noticed a lot more Linux out there too. I mean, I was at a pizza shop one day, and I noticed when their system rebooted, you know, whatever screens they were having, like the orders that were coming in online, that thing was running Red Hat. You know, it's just stuff like that. You know, you see Ubuntu everywhere on different kiosks and things like that. You know, walking around the mall or whatever. So.
I know for a fact that the Dutch Railroad sign stations are actually like an embedded browser on some variant of Linux, but I couldn't make out which distro it was based on the crash message alone.
Yeah.
In my school, we have TVs that show information and uses, I believe it's Ubuntu on Raspberry Pi. Something like that, something similar. And I remember one day my professor came with his home laptop that had Ubuntu on there. It was like everybody was asking, "What the hell is this?" And I was like sitting there and saying, "Look at my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing." Exam professor had like all nice. He took time. I leave it stock. I just don't care.
Yeah, I remember one of the first live streams I ever did on this channel. I had a high school student, high school girl, that chimed in on the channel and said that when she took her Linux laptop to school, that the kids, you know, were kind of making fun of her and asking her why she didn't have a normal computer, because, you know, things didn't work the same on her computer as, you know, everybody that was using Windows.
My son, he's 7. He only knows Linux Mate.
Yeah.
And he come home from school. He had an allocated time to use it, and he come home and he was like, "Dad, I'm not using Windows because it done a forced update and wasted all his time, so then he couldn't use it."
Yeah. Windows 10. I mean, that's probably the biggest complaint I hear from people that use Windows. Again, I don't use Windows. I haven't in years, but everyone, even the people that like Windows. I mean, I know Toss, Total OS Today, was in the chat earlier. You know, he still uses Windows. Sometimes he uses both Windows and Linux, and he says he likes Windows 10. It's a great operating system, but he hates the updates. He says that's the thing that drives people crazy with Windows 10 is the forced updates. So
I keep telling people, if you don't like forced update, go to settings, change settings. It's everything is there. You just need to know how to read it.
Yeah.
Actually, the first time I installed it on this machine, actually asked me on the first update if I want to do it now or if I want to do it later. And I had to choose an hour. And at that time, it actually updates every time, except if I'm using it. Then it actually asks me if I want to wait for a certain amount of minutes.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you turn the updates off,
I'm from the enterprise management world, so I might have a little bit of insight on this. The forced update debate is actually a change that they've done in the Windows 7 to Windows 10 era.
Yeah.
Originally, we could cherry pick the updates, just like you have your packages in Linux. You choose the ones you want, and if there's one you know will break, you just don't choose it and you're fine. On Windows, they changed that. So imagine that all your different packages are now just July update, September update. And after delaying it for a while, it will actually force install. So you are forced to install all the security features along with new bloatware, new proprietary telemetry stuff. It just changes entire registry calls in the system around breaking compatibility. Sometimes even removing a policy, like they, for example, removed the setting that turned Cortana off or that allowed you to change Bing. Stuff like that is being pushed through the updates, and that's actually what people are rebelling against more so than install times.
That's true, actually, but I think the forced updates are actually a good thing, not because like it changes and stuff like that, but because security features. I know a couple of people who actually fixed laptop for 6 months with no updates, year with no updates, and guess what happens then? They get a virus, everything goes away, no backups.
And I was going to ask about if you turn the updates off on a Windows machine, that could be a big security risk. So
it is. I remember actually in a company close to me. Remember that virus, that crypto virus, WannaCry.
Yeah.
That virus that actually is error, is actually a bug in SMB 1.0, 1.0. It was a bug that NSA found, and Microsoft in Windows 10 fixed it by removing it. They actually didn't know that bug existed. They removed it because it was so old. But on Windows 7, they actually, after they found out, they actually fixed it. But because most people didn't update, they still got the virus. And if they would update, no one would get the virus. Actually, remember a company that actually does it 3 or 4 months. Each 3 or 4 months, they do like a big update on the whole network, like, because they check all the updates if everything is okay and yada yada yada. I know why they do it, everything like that. I don't understand them. But then whole company got WannaCry because they didn't update. They were in the middle of update cycle, as they call it. And I was like, I know people who work there. I was like, that's because you don't update. You must update as soon as updates go.
And Dennis in the chat mentions that blocking the updates in Windows is against the EULA, the end user license agreement. I did not know that. That's crazy that you agree to not update your machine. But I guess that's part of that very long legal document. Basically, you agree to with if you guys have ever taken the time to read the Microsoft end user license agreement, the last paragraph is, hey, you can't sue us for anything that might happen.
I'm gonna say this.
Folks need to hop off.
All right. See you, Rob. Yeah.
I'm gonna say this. Windows and Microsoft in general license is actually really, really nice to people. Check Apple licenses. Those are bad. Apple is like 1,000 times worse than just like Microsoft has its like spying. But let's be clear, Microsoft is the only company that does it, that has that in, let's say, public manner, like everybody knows and knows at least somewhat what they spy on. Does anyone know what Apple spies, what Google saves, what some other companies like your ISP and stuff like that? Nobody knows that.
Yeah. Well, the difference is you can't do much about your ISP. You do have choice with using products from Microsoft, Google, things like Facebook. Well, I guess you have a choice using internet at all, but if you're going to be on the internet, I mean, your ISP, I mean, you kind of are at the mercy of them anyway.
Actually, I listened to some paranoid guy who said that when he was like at its worst, he actually was living in a cave because he knew that you cannot escape spying, because if you step out of the house, you are spied on. Actually, most people are spied on while they're in their house, because most people have that. Even if you don't have internet at all, many people have security cameras.
Yeah, I mean, any camera you have is potentially spying on you. Any open mic is potentially spying. Your phone, the mic on your phone is potentially listening to everything you're saying. There's bugs all over your house.
Even smart TVs these days.
Yeah.
And actually, at one point, really cagey about this stuff. I didn't want spying, but then one day I just woke up and thought about it actually, and just gave up.
Yeah.
Because everyone is spying on you, because in today's time, the most powerful currency is information.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Well, the
why
most powerful,
more effective strategy these days seems to be not so much not being spied upon, but cluttering the data with useless information, like friending random people, visiting random things, clicking on random ads.
No.
So at least the algorithms that they do have about you are no longer accurate. That seems the only.
Well, when you think about when you think about the most profitable companies in the world, companies like Apple, Google, Facebook. Apple, they actually sell real products, physical hardware, so to a lesser extent, but things like Google and Facebook, their only source of income really is selling people ads, serving ads, and to do that effectively, they have to data mine. They have to know more about you than you know about you to serve you ads that you're going to click on and buy something. So that is the problem with companies like Google and Facebook.
I actually like Google way more than Facebook.
Yes.
A single reason. No one actually has any information that they have sold my information to someone.
Yeah.
And that's the difference why I actually love Google more.
Well, Google is data mining you, but they're not doing it to sell the information to somebody else.
For their own.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Actually, that's not true, DistroTube. The whole sole business model is selling that data to other people, for example, through the AdSense program where you get targeted ads based on what you do. So the data is out there in some form.
Well, it's all on their servers.
Information.
Yeah.
Let's be. They sell you. Let's say you're a company. They sell you their service of using your information to serve someone ads. Let's say I get ad from some company that I got that because Google has information about that I am looking at information about that company. But they don't sell information like, here, this guy is watching your site. They don't sell that. And that's what I like about them.
Well, for the Google Analytics, they actually do collect a few things like your location, your projected age, etc. So that they kind of do it, but it's indeed not as bad as someone like Facebook where everyone can interface.
Yeah.
What I do want to give to the chat, if you want a heart attack because you never looked at this before, go to myactivity.google.com and you will see a nice list of where you've ever been with your Android phone, which YouTube videos you watched, all the search you did, including buttons to turn that off. So if you want to have better privacy when using Google, just go to myactivity.google.com, monitor, and then delete everything. Then they know at least a little bit less about you.
I actually use my activity to spy on myself. What I do when I'm drunk, what I post around. I use some algorithms they have to actually see because they allow you to set alarms when your name pops up on SEO and stuff like that. I have it all set up in a most paranoid way possible.
Yeah. Well, guys, I'm going to have to wrap up the stream here. We've been going for about an hour and 45 minutes, and I have something I have to get to after this. So I do want to thank you guys for joining me. Let's get a last word from everybody that's still here before we go. Hinky, you got any final thoughts before we go?
Not very much. I just want to thank you for the stream, because I have to go as well. So it's a good wrap-up time for me.
All right. Thank you for joining us, Hinky. Archaic, are you still there?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, give us a final word, sir.
Sorry. Sorry, my first time. So
no, that's cool.
No, I love your channel. I learned
appreciate
a lot. Yeah, just glad to be here and contribute when I can.
Yeah, come back and see us next time we do one of these.
Yeah, all the best.
All right, Big Pod, you got a final word, sir. Send us out.
I will have the same final words I have all the time.
Yep.
Use whatever you need, not what you want. Like, people use Linux because they want to use Linux and they don't even consider other alternatives. Like, even Windows is alternative. You can, because some stuff work on Windows better than on Linux.
Absolutely.
Like, video editing is on Windows better a lot. I hate life.
Mm-hmm. All right, and of course, before I go, my final word, I have to do a quick shout out to my patrons. So, special thanks to my patrons, A.K. Alan, Alex, Ansem, Tony, Bart, Benjamin, Ben, Bruno, Brian, Carlos, Christian, Chuck, Dan, the other Dan, Daniel, David, the other David, Eduardo, Greg, Humane Interceptor, Jake, John, Carl, Katrina, Keith, Leor, Marcus, the other Marcus, Matt, Mateo, Mark, Martin, Matthias, Michael, Mr. GFY, Mr. Smarty Pants, Mr. Lee, Pops, Paul, Rob, Robert, Ron, Silvio, First Stephen, Second Stephen, Third Stephen, Swami, Tiedemann, Voice Lab, and to Bella. And John Kennedy as well. You guys rock. Peace, guys.